Hi, I'm Marita Golden, and I welcome you to another in my series of conversations with new, strong Black women who are creating new definitions of mental health, physical health, and how to prioritize all of that. Today, I'm in conversation with Dr. Amber Thornton, a clinical psychologist who's created the Balanced Working Mamas, a community designed to inspire millennial mamas, to truly find the balance and wellness in motherhood. Amber, this is a community that you've created, and it's very exciting and long overdue. Now, there's your podcast and other services. Talk about the community and why you were inspired to create Balanced Working Mamas.
Yes. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you, and I really do enjoy your work. And so I'm honored to be here to talk about Balanced Working Mama. Our community is so amazing. I don't even know how else to say it. And I was inspired to create the community, but then also Balanced Working Mama, because Balanced Working Mama came first. Balanced Working Mama came out of my own frustration with feeling like I would be stuck or hindered in my ability to move forward in my career or to just simply take care of my own well-being if I became a mom. And so that, I had that fear for so long, even before becoming a mom. I was really nervous about becoming a mom because I had only seen examples of women become mom and be very self-sacrificing and, very I don't know any other words to put it, but really sacrificing their health and their mental health and well-being to take care of other people. And while that's in our culture, I believe that is seen as very honorable. One thing that in our generation, I think we are noticing is that we are really prioritizing our health, our well-being. And so with that, there was almost a mismatch. It's like, okay, well, I want to become a mom. How do I become a mother? But the only examples that I've seen of this meant that you had to sacrifice your well-being. And so that's what that was. It was really, kind of my personal journey of like, well, I'm going to figure this out, because my career is really important to me. My health is extremely important to me. And I want to be a mom too. And I want to do all of those things. And so how do we do it while prioritizing ourselves? And so that's where Balanced Working Mama came from. And of course, from there, there was the podcast, we had a few programs, but at this point, we're really working to grow our virtual community. And it is a live community. Right now, we have about 70 mamas. And I wanted to build the community because one thing that I'm realizing is that many of us millennial mothers, especially mothers of color, Black mothers, we're wanting this type of lifestyle. We want to be great moms, but we also really want to be able to take care of ourselves. At this point, it's not even a question. It's a requirement. We are demanding that we're going to take care of ourselves, but because we did not grow up seeing it, we don't know how to do it. And so the community is a means of support to be able to create this type of lifestyle amongst other women who also want that same thing and will also like push and challenge and support you to do it too.
So the community offers, what kind of services do you offer?
Yeah, we offer a lot of really good benefits in our community. So one, I think the social aspect of being in a community is just really phenomenal. And that's just there, period. Like regardless of whether you participate in the other things we offer, being able to just be amongst, 70 other women is powerful. 70 other women who chose this community is really powerful. But with that, one thing that I created with Balanced Working Mama is something we call our motherhood wellness assessment. And it is really designed for, again, millennial moms who—
When you say millennial, let's define that.
Yes, let's do that. Thank you. So millennial, and I should have looked up the actual years, but millennials were born in the late 80s through the 90s. And so right now, millennials are probably— the youngest millennials probably in their mid 20s. The oldest millennial is probably about 38. And so that's the generation we're talking about. Mid 20s to late 30s is where we're at right now. And that's, many people in this generation who are women and mothers, they're just now entering motherhood.
I see.
They're just now having babies, many of them. And so our wellness assessment really looks at what wellness means for us in
Mhm.
this generation as mothers. And so um, I love being a psychologist because it lets me, be able to do so many things. And so I was able to use my knowledge around assessment and test construction to really identify these areas of wellness. There are 9 of them, and create an assessment to help mamas understand the 9 areas of wellness for them. And so they take that assessment. It's only accessible to people in our community, and
Mhm.
we do it quarterly. So they're going to do it again the 1st of April that week. Take
Mm,
it again. And so they get to compare their scores from the 1st of January. And so
great.
that just helps them know, hey, I'm doing well in this area. Last quarter, I wasn't doing so well in that area. It's looking a little bit better. It just helps to keep them accountable because otherwise they wouldn't be thinking about these 9 categories. So
Great.
that is a really big benefit. But then also we offer like courses and sessions in our community too around topics of wellness and the framework of balance.
Okay. So the special challenges, for example, you hinted a little bit, but the difference between motherhood for your mother and you
Mhm.
is,
Mm. It's huge. And there's so many things that I could say about this. And I actually was just having a conversation on Instagram about this. And, right now when I think of it, I think the biggest difference in our experience is that, right now I feel lucky that society is pushing for like mental health and wellness. Like that is a theme in our society right now. It's important. People are asking you about it, people are thinking about it, people understand it more. But in my mother's generation, that was not talked about. Mental health was like something that people were ashamed of and embarrassed of. It was not normalized. And so I think that is one of the biggest differences, is that the priorities of what motherhood meant were completely different. And I think for my mother, the priority of what it meant to be a good mom, or the indicators of success for
right.
motherhood, were being great at motherhood and wifehood, but then also being able to have a career. I think that was the really big thing. But for us, I think there's this third factor of, okay, do those 2 things, but also take care of yourself.
Uh-huh.
And
So
that's
how did you learn to be a strong Black woman from your strong Black mother?
Ooh, hmm, that's a great question. And, I think that looking at her experience, I learned so much, and especially about what it means to have strong boundaries, and also what it means to be very directive and assertive about what I feel like I need. And so, what I mean by that is, when I think about my mom's experience, I think that there were times where she did need some more help. She did need some more support. And my mom was a strong Black woman in her day and age because she was able to push through and get those things done. And so, when I look at that, and this is why generations and studying those generations is so important. In my generation, the idea of pushing through is not does not necessarily mean that you're
Mhm.
strong, but rather recognizing when you need the help and asking for it. And so
So you push, and then you sit down and take a breath.
exactly,
And then you
exactly.
push and you take a breath.
Exactly. I sit,
Yeah.
I push when I need to, but then I
Yeah.
sit down and I take a breath. And I think what I learned from my mother is, one, to be really grateful for the opportunity to sit down and take a breath, because I feel like if my mom had those opportunities, she would have done it more.
Mhm.
So, being really grateful and appreciative of, my privilege of being able to seek out help, being able
Right.
to be really directive about it. But then also, one thing that I learned from her is that me taking the time for myself, I have to take it very seriously because it's honoring me, but it's also honoring her. Because I see it as, I'm not just doing this for me, I'm kind of also giving her this back as well. Like, this was her birthright and she wasn't able to do it. So I'm going to do it for her.
And you're
I'm going
doing
to,
it, Yeah, and you're doing it for your family as well.
Exactly,
Now,
exactly.
you have a very stressful job because you're a
Okay.
clinical psychologist
Yes,
at an inner city school in Washington, D.C. And
yes.
Washington, D.C. public schools, whether they are charter schools or public schools, have a very high rate of students who are impoverished
Yes.
from single parent homes, who are free lunch, and too many of them live in communities where violence is the norm. So you're working with a student population that is enormously stressed. So you have to balance that job,
Mhm.
your marriage, your motherhood, your responsibilities of family, as well as your responsibility yourself. So how do you do that? What are your balance practices?
Right. I have a podcast episode about that actually. It's funny because I get that question a lot, this question of, well, how do you balance all these things? Because I think on the outside from people, it looks like I'm doing all these things and they're curious about how. And so two things I say to them. The one thing is that I did develop a framework for balanced working mama with balance, that word balanced. And so each letter in that word, it stands for something. So B stands for bold and firm boundaries. A stands for always prioritizing your wellness. L stands for living fully in all of your identities. And it just goes on. There's so many of the other ones. And so me creating that was not just for fun. Like that I live by that. And so living by those values of like, okay, where are my boundaries today? Okay, how am I going to make sure that I'm doing good at motherhood, but also I'm like giving me some time for me. One of them is delegating and collaborating. Okay, like today, who am I delegating what to? Because I know I can't do it all by myself. One of them is effectively managing your mental health. I have a therapist. And so, like, really doing those things to take care of myself. So, one, I fully live and breathe by our balanced framework. And then also, the next thing, y'all, I have a support system. Support. I don't do anything alone. And so I have been really very bold. And when it comes to asking for the help and very directive about, hey, this is what I need.
Yeah.
And so I fall back on my partner when I need to. We have family in the area, so like this weekend, my kids are going to go to their grandparents because they love them and I need some rest. And so, I don't do anything by myself.
Mhm.
I've created a life where motherhood for me means that I do what I can and the rest I seek out some help for. Even just the day to day, my husband is super engaged, super active in our home. And so I think a lot of times when people are asking me, well, how am I doing these things then? They're coming from this mindset, well, mother's default.
Right, right.
Mom is default. And
Mom
so,
does everything.
yeah, and that is not the case for me because I was very intentional about, even before I had kids, I had conversations with my husband like, look, I'm not going to be default. I'm not
Mhm.
going to be default because I knew that that would never work for me. And so we've created a life where there's a lot of equality, there's a lot of equity, and I'm able to be and do what it is I need to do in this world.
Well, I love the fact that in one of your podcasts, the podcast about feeling stuck,
Mhm.
you were very open about the fact that you've struggled with anxiety for much of your life, and anxiety is the number one mental health issue in America. And even if you aren't diagnosed with anxiety, if
Mhm.
you are an American, you are anxious, okay? And especially if you are a Black woman, if you're not anxious, something's wrong. So you were very open about having struggled with, and creating a lifestyle that allowed you to address it, to build healing into your life,
Mhm.
and feeling like, well, oh my God, do I have to change the diapers again? Do I have to just the rut? Because motherhood can be a rut. Talk about that things you covered in that podcast. I mean, my son is a grown man, but I flash back to, oh my God, I remember those days.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I love when I hear women who are wiser than me, a little bit older than me, have older kids, and they're like, look, I remember those days and it's going to get better. I love hearing that because it makes me feel so good because you're right. For anyone who doesn't know, I have two very small kids. I have a 1-year old and a 3-year-old. And so if you can remember that time, you are
Oh,
in the thick of it. Like
but see,
it
that's a time when the grandparents love taking care of it because
yes.
they're just so sweet and so cute. You just want to eat them up, so they love taking care
They
of it.
love it. And that's why I'm
Yeah.
like, look, y'all want them this weekend? And so in that episode, I was just really transparent because I think, I am someone that has and currently has anxiety, and has, really worked on that for me. I've experienced it in childhood and now it's here in adulthood and now also as a mother. And so, working on that, but then also having moments in motherhood where sometimes it feels like, wow, we're really stuck in this phase that is really uncomfortable. I know in everybody's phase of motherhood is so different. And I know for me, the challenge in my current phase of motherhood is the level of energy it requires. It requires so
Yeah.
much energy. And, I was really transparent on that podcast episode about that being hard, but also it being hard to admit that I too struggle with some things as someone who is supposed to be an expert on balance and wellness and motherhood. And I think it really just goes back to even the experts need support.
Mm-hmm.
Or even being an expert doesn't mean you're absent of any of this. These things will impact you as well. And so I'm really happy that I was able to be vulnerable and transparent about my challenges in that episode, because I think it helped people see, like, it's okay for me to be struggling with this in this moment. And here's what I'm going to do about it. And so that's what, my favorite part of that is, like, really expressing, hey, this is what I'm going through. These are the challenges. I've been feeling stuck, and this is what I want to do about it. And it's okay for me to be here in this moment.
So I want to, my last question is probably the most important question that the people who are on this journey have. And that is, how do you have, you're a clinical psychologist, how do you recommend that mamas who want to have a crucial conversation about getting that support system from partners or family or friends, how do they break through the feeling that if they ask for help, they're failure? And how do they begin that conversation,
Ooh,
asking for help?
yes, I love that conversation. I love this question. It's a two-part question. So the first part, and if I ever forget the second part, please remind me. But the first part, what I heard you ask is, how do you almost shift the mindset of not feeling like you're failing if you need to ask for help? And so with that, what I will say is that if you feel like you are failing when you're needing to ask for help, it means that there's something off about how you're thinking about success in motherhood. So when we think, oh, asking for help means failure, there's something in the back of your mind that's telling you, oh, motherhood means I can do it all by myself, or motherhood means I'm supposed to do it all by myself. So we have to shift that indicator of success. I keep saying indicator of success. I like that term because that's what it is. What are the things that's going to let you know that you're doing well in motherhood? And it cannot be that you do all the things by yourself. It cannot be that you won't struggle, because you will struggle in motherhood, and you cannot do all the things by yourself. You can try, but it's not going to be good for you, and it's not good for your kids. And so we have to think about new indications that let you know that you're doing well and that are completely separate from your need for help. And so for me, indicators of success in motherhood is, my ability to be vulnerable about my feelings. That right there is like, okay, I'm doing great in motherhood. My
Right.
ability to
Yeah, you're turning it upside down. It's
exactly, yeah.
completely new.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
completely new indications of success. My
Yeah.
ability to apologize to my child after I've yelled at him when I shouldn't. And that's completely different.
Mhm.
But instead that shows, oh, it's okay to, lose my patience. It's okay to make a mistake, but I'm going to apologize. And that right there is an indicator like, okay, I'm doing good in motherhood. So that's the first part. We need to change your indicators of success in motherhood so that they can be more fitting. The second part is, how do you then have these conversations with like your partner or people in your life? And so I have another great episode in the podcast about that, where I actually talk with my husband on the podcast, and we talk about how we have conversations about this. And so what I will say is that you really have to almost have a pep talk with yourself first to
Right.
get yourself ready, because
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
the mamas who are not asking for help is because they are fearful of the reaction or the response from the other person, when really it could be a very positive response.
Right, right.
And so, you have to work on your mindset around, hey, me asking for this thing, I don't know what the reaction or the response is going to be. And if it's a no, I'm back at zero. I haven't lost anything. And also, me asking them for help is not going to change our relationship or anything.
Right. That's what people fear a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's not going to happen, especially with people who truly love and care about you. And so the likelihood is that these people want to help you. So, give yourself a pep talk, really get clear about what it is you want to ask them for, so that you're not like stumbling or over that in the conversation. You can even write it down if you need to, and just get ready and go for it. And I think you will be surprised at how positive the experience can be.
Mhm. Well, Amber, this has been great. Tell everyone the website and how they can connect with the community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for having me. My website is www.balancedworkingmama.com. You can connect with me there. I also have the podcast, the Balanced Working Mama podcast. You can learn about that on the website. And the community you also can connect with on the website. But if you are on Instagram, I'm also on Instagram at Dr. Amber Thornton. And I'm very open to messages. If anyone has questions or want to ask me about it or talk about the community, we can absolutely do that.
Well, great, great, great. And I'm so glad that we have a generation of mamas who are taking the strong Black woman complex and the perfect Black mother complex, the stronger, invincible, and really humanizing it. And so I thank you for your work. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay, take care and give those little ones a hug from me.
Oh, I will. I absolutely will.
Okay, thank you, dear.
Bye.
Bye-bye.